June 27, 2024. I am on a hang gliding tour of the European Alps with a small group of friends. Today, we are at the famous flying site of Fiesch in the heart of the Swiss Alps. It's a popular ski town with the high snowy mountains around, and it has one of the few cable cars in the Alps that can take our hang gliders up the mountain. That makes it a lot easier for us to fly here, since we don't need to drive up. This site is famous for the Aletsch Glacier that sits in a high valley behind the mountain we launched from. Seeing the glacier is our first goal. Then we plan to fly east along the range to the end of the valley, turn back and land in the valley where we left a retrieve car. We are set up early and raring to go after a light lunch, but the conditions look mild with cloudy skies and damp ground, so we need to be patient. A large flock of alpine chough birds are playing in the lift and making it look easy, so I cannot wait any longer.
Okay, clear?
I launched second in our group at around noon and zoom left over the cable cars which we took to get up here. We've been told to hug the ridge to the left of launch to find the first climb. I do just that and voila! I find a decent thermal which is getting stronger, and in a few minutes I am at cloud base 9,000 feet. It's still way below the peak of Eggishorn at 9,600 feet, beyond which is the glacier, so I need to find a way to get higher. But I am unable to get higher under the cloud, so I decide to head north to the peak and hope to find lift there. I enjoy views of the metamorphic rocks forming the exposed peak, lifted up from the continental base of Europe during the formation of the Alps 50 million years ago. Losing the hard-earned altitude, I go back to the cloud above launch and join my friends back to cloud base, slightly higher than before. I fly toward Eggishorn again, but the same sink as before forces me below the peak again. This time, I at least catch a glimpse of the glacier through a gap on the east shoulder of the peak. I consider giving up my quest for the glacier and heading on course to find better climbs, but decide to give it one last shot. And finally, on the third attempt, I go to a different cloud on the west side of launch and get to cloud base again, which is still only 9,500 feet. But I find a lifty area behind the cloud that takes me up to almost 10,000 feet, right over the other peak of Bet Merhorn. I'm finally able to see the glacier in its full glory. The Great Aletsch is the largest glacier in the Alps. The weight of all the ice it carries is estimated at 10 billion tons. It originates about 4 miles to the north of here, from the junction of 4 smaller glaciers at Concordia Platz, at 9,000 feet, where the ice can be up to 3,000 feet deep. The ice advances at about 200 meters per year until it melts into the Massa River, which eventually feeds into the Rhone River. Unfortunately, due to global warming, the Great Aletsch is losing 50 meters of length each year. With the beautiful views of the glacier to my left and the stunning cloudscape to my right, I am in paradise. It's been an hour since launch, and I'm very happy with the views of the glacier. I can't go any deeper into the mountains due to the low top of lift, so I decide to head east on course at full speed. This canyon crossing could be tricky, since there could be a lot of sink in there. Luckily, I get a good glide crossing the 3 miles of the canyon of the Wisswasser Creek that drains the small Fiescher Glacier. The town of Fiesch is at the bottom of the canyon at 3,500 feet. Arriving on the other side, I'm still high at 8,000 feet at the shoulder of the Rhone mountain. The exposed mountain is facing directly into the sun, so it should be producing some good lift. Climbing back to 9,000 feet, I can see the beautiful towering conical peak of the Rhone, deep north behind the front range. It is the tallest in the Bernese Alps at just over 14,000 feet. This range is called the Bernese Alps, even though only the eastern portion of the mountains is in the canton of Bern. They are the northernmost of the high Alps in Switzerland. Neatly oriented southwest to northeast, they extend about 65 miles. We are flying only the eastern third of the range today, but I want to fly the whole range next time. I look at the clouds around to figure out where they might be feeding from, and work up to cloud base again at 10,300 feet, and the air is very cold. But I'm still comfortable in my warm gear. The wide peak to the left is called Rhone. This is my first time flying here, so the scenery is all new to me and just breathtaking, and it feels like time is moving very fast. I briefly fly with the sailplane, but lose track of it since I'm so distracted by the gorgeous mountains. The narrow valley that I am flying along is that of the Rhone River, although it is called Rhone in the local German dialect. It's a major river of Europe, flowing from Switzerland to France and into the Mediterranean Sea. As you can tell by the names of places here, this is the German-speaking part of Switzerland, which is about 60% of the country, while French is spoken in the west and Italian in the south. Across the Rhone Valley, to my south, are the Lepontine Alps, another high range of the Alps that also marks the border between Switzerland and Italy. It's quite possible to fly to Italy in the right conditions. The upper Rhone Valley is also called the Goms Valley, and it sits at 4,400 feet. It is quite remote and has no big cities, but is famous for its authentic villages with wooden houses and whitewashed churches. It's a cross-country skiing paradise in winter, and hikers and mountaineers are drawn to it in the summers. Passing the easternmost peak of the Bernese Alps, called Siedelhorn, I approach the end of the Goms Valley, about 15 miles from launch. I notice the two zigzagging roads climbing over the mountains, Grimsel Pass to the left and Furka Pass to the right. Between them sits the Rhone Glacier, the source of the river. It's only 3 miles away, and I can reach it if I find just one more climb. Unfortunately, wind from the north is spilling into the valley through the Grimsel Pass and shutting down thermal production, creating a blue hole with no clouds over the mountains. I'm feeling a heavy sink. Down to 7,500 feet, I don't expect to find a climb here. I turn back so I can make it to our chosen landing field. The Rhone Glacier will remain a goal for a future visit. Flying back westward, soon I am below the tree line at about 2,000 feet over the valley. My Vario is mostly quiet, with only a few weak bumps of sporadic and disorganized lift. I am in the valley wind layer, which is a moderate tailwind. As I glide west over the Goms Valley, I pass the hamlet of Ulriken. It's among the several villages listed on the inventory of Swiss heritage sites for the preservation of its history and culture. Past the town, I see the old airstrip next to which is our planned landing field. It's only been 2 hours and I was hoping for a longer flight, but I'm very grateful for the experience so far. The air is quite smooth, and I have a nice, easy landing, which is a perfect end to a great flight. I'm overjoyed to have seen such beautiful views flying in relatively easy conditions, and look forward to coming back for more.